Hello and welcome to another Mapping It Out Wednesday. So this Wednesday, Akila has graciously agreed to having me bombard her with questions. And these are questions that many people have asked over the time that we've been doing the Mapping Out Wednesdays. These are some of my questions that I get to ask her. And again, these are just a collection of questions. We have a lot of questions. I don't think we're going to get to all of them, but we'll try to get to as many as possible. And they're broken up into categories. So we're going to talk about teams. We're going to talk about pairs, which I'll say a little bit more about that in a minute. And we're going to talk about individuals. And then we're also going to talk about becoming a practitioner. How are you feeling about those questions, Akila?
I am open to them, and fair warning, Marie, is that if there's a question I think you can answer better than I can, I'm going to ask it to you.
Oh, you're going to turn the tables on me. Okay.
Yes.
I must be prepared. All right. So let's start with individuals because when we talk about motivational maps, it always starts with the person's self-awareness. So let's start there with individuals.
Okay.
And this is a popular question that I think we get a lot. You've answered it before, but I think it's good for you to answer it again. Does someone's motivators change over time? Is that normal?
Absolutely normal, because motivation is not like a psychometric. It's not your personality. It's not about how intelligent you are. It's not about, when I say intelligent, I'm talking about IQ or EQ or all of that. Those are stored and processed in one part of our brains. Motivation is more fluid. And that's because it comes from the past, the present, and the future. And because the past is relatively fixed, and that's where a lot of people's personality and things like that come from. But the present is variable, because you could be thinking one thing and somebody says something to you and you automatically goes, "Ah, I see the light." And you started thinking differently. Your mind has changed, and that can impact your motivation one way or the other. And the other one, the future, is not there. So because the future is unknown, it's what we expect of the future that helps to motivate us. So if we are feeling like, oh, there is there's going to be no jobs in the future, we're looking at the end of work, it may demotivate you. On the other hand, if you think, oh, we're looking at not having to work that long and then spending more of our time on the things that we enjoy the most, that is going to motivate you.
Mhm.
So yes, motivations change and they happen frequently. And if you want some indicators that your motivation may have changed, think about if you're confused, if you're no longer clear about exactly what you want, if you are finding it difficult to make a decision between two things, okay? And another one is that if you are feeling like you don't have clarity, I don't know what I want anymore,
Mhm.
those are all indicators that your motivation, one of your key motivation, may have changed.
That's a really good point because what it sounds like you're saying too is that depending on what's going on in our lives situationally, those
Mhm.
motivators can change very easily.
Yes.
And I love how it really is connected to our past, present, and future, because
Yes.
that's what the situation, how we view situations in our life and how we make decisions. So
Mhm.
it's
Well,
really
I'll give you an
insightful.
example. During the pandemic, when I was doing maps, the engagement surveys for companies, security took a big jump because people were worried about their safety, their parents' safety, their children's safety, and that type of thing. And
Mhm.
after COVID was finished and we started getting back into real life, it went down again.
Mm. Which just shows how the situation, not just your own personal situation, but a global situation can really change
Mhm.
what motivates you and what drives you. really,
Yes.
essentially. So yeah, a great example of that too. I think a lot of people get stuck with that one, very much so. So when we talk about pairs, we're really talking about partners, business partners, and also romantic partners.
Yes.
Uh, Two people working together, because even romantic partnerships, we have to work together.
Mhm.
So what is the biggest aha that couples usually get when they do motivational maps?
Well, it's very interesting because we always used to say opposites attract.
Mhm.
And what I have found over the years that to a great degree, opposites attract. But there are always some who are very similar in their wants and desires and things like that.
Mhm.
And there's no right or wrong. Okay. So let's talk about the opposites attract first. When we have people with traits that could potentially cause tensions, it is an opportunity for that couple to lean into their strengths. So, for example, in one situation, the woman loved to handle the money and the resources. And the husband really didn't care. He was more, the children was what mattered, and he would spend money on the kids without thought because that was his way of showing that he loved them. And yes, they were having some financial issues. But once we sat down and talked about it, I said, look, this is one of the areas that that tension is showing up. So I said to the woman, do you love your children? Of course I do. And I'm looking forward, I'm trying to help them have a future. I want them to go to university. I want them to, if they need to buy a house, that we're in a situation to help them. And I said to him, do you love your children? And he goes, of course, that's why I give them what they want now. And I'm saying, okay, so you both understand you love your children, but you have two different ways of showing it.
Mm.
Now, how can you come together and satisfy both of those needs? Yeah. And that got into the talk. Well, maybe we can do a budget amount that we can put for fun and things right now, but we're also putting away some monies for later,
Mhm.
you know. And that had been causing so much tension in the family because they didn't really understand where their needs were coming from. It's just they were handling money differently, and that was a problem.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, that makes me think about the fact that understanding your partner's motivational map and understanding yourself will allow you to, I love that example, especially with money. It's a big trigger in most relationships,
mhm,
but understand how money motivates you, or, the other trigger in relationships are family members outside of, the marriage,
yes,
each person's family, but understanding how that motivates you, where that comes from and how that motivates you and how you deal with your family,
yes,
especially if you have somebody who has a high friend, as an example, married to someone with a low friend. there's
yes.
there's a different way of seeing relationships and dealing with
Oh,
people.
yes. And even if one has a need for high recognition and to the other one it's not important, knowing that his partner or her partner needs to be recognized
Yeah.
verbally and told what they're doing right, you
Hmm.
know, is very important. Even if it's not important to you, is it important to make your spouse happy or your business partner? The
Yeah.
same the same mechanisms are there,
Mhm.
you know. So we talked about a marriage, but what if in a company the two partners don't have matching money styles? That's okay. It's how can we work together to make our company the most successful and using what we will choose to see as our strengths. I'm a
Mhm.
saver and you're a spender. Now, let's do something about that.
Yeah. Yeah. And even in business relationships, I'm thinking of a CEO and a COO that I know. The CEO really loves recognition, public recognition, and the COO honestly dislikes it. And I haven't had them take a map. I intend to have them do that. but just based on how their visceral reactions to that are, you can tell that they're on different spaces when it comes to that. And just being able to, I think, to take the motivational maps and have a debrief together, I think will improve their relationship, because they'll begin to see where the other one is coming from, what drives the other one.
Exactly. And how they can support each other.
Yes.
It's not about blame, it's about support.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's the key, is that with that self-awareness, but also the awareness of the other person, comes an ability to understand, as you said, not only how to support them, but how to grow with them.
Yes.
Which is hopefully what every relationship wants. So I love that. I love that answer, that it really is effective for partners. So let's move over to teams. This one is a big one that a lot of people have asked about, which is, can motivational maps help with resolving conflicts on teams?
Of course. We've just talked about an example of it helping to resolve conflict in a couple.
Yeah.
You have the same dynamics, but you have more potential for tensions. Okay. Because when we have a team of, you seldom see it, but you see a team of totally different motivators. Okay. There's a lot of potential for tensions unless you understand the other person. But if you have a team, and usually this is what happens, the organization would attract people who are drawn to the mission of the organization. And that shapes the kind of people who are attracted to work there. And then the team itself has its own motivation, key motivation. For example, a team that is a customer service team is focused on giving service. Okay. They want to provide great service to their clients. A team that is a sales team has a different motivation. Yeah. So because their entire team, their goals, everything like that is focused on getting out there and selling things.
Yeah, acquiring customers.
Yeah. So there will be some overlap in motivations because people are drawn to that. But if there's somebody on the team who is not really a salesperson and they don't want to be there and they have totally different motivators, once that's recognized, they may be more customer service oriented. Okay. And once the rest of the team understands that they're not driven by monetary rewards, they're not driven by recognition, they are driven by the fact that they're doing the very best for the customer. And how does that fit with the team? Right. You know, well, all of them are supposed to be doing the best for the customer. They're just doing it differently. And helping them to understand that is really important. So it stops being doesn't do a lot of sales, you know. No, but the sales that they make are more likely to stay on for years and years and years.
Right. It's quality over quantity at that point.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. With that, how often should teams revisit or remap? We
say a minimum of once a year. Or if there is change management going on, about every 4 months, because what that does is it helps to identify unintended consequences of the change so you can adjust it before it becomes a big issue.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, and because we've already talked about this, because the maps are really based on what's going on with someone, what's changed their motivator, what's their situation, it is really good to renew that map, because life changes, situations change, the company climate can change. There's burnout. There's so many factors that it really does help to see what's going on today, right now, that snapshot of this moment, to be able to help drive how do we support, how do we develop the team, which I think is one thing that people don't think about when they think about motivational maps. And, we've talked about this, that this can be such a great tool to help figure out what type of development, what type of maybe change management in terms of the culture itself could happen within an organization. So can you share with us sort of your experience around that? Because I know you've had some really wonderful experiences around that.
Well, there are a lot of them, but I'll pick this one.
Yeah.
It's because quite often management and leadership have this idea of what it is their people want. And they make changes according to that. And their people really doesn't want it. And then they wonder why it doesn't work. Why doesn't it lift engagement? We're spending money on this. What's going on? Whereas when you do the motivational map, you're getting it directly from your employees, what it is that they want, not individually. We aggregate that, and then they are ranked first, second, third, fourth, right, all the way down to 9.
Yeah.
And what we look for, as you know, is their top 3 motivators should be very closely aligned with the organization goals and mission. Because if they are, it means you have hired the right person knowingly or unknowingly for that. And then you start to see things and how satisfied they are with those things. For one example, I'm thinking of searcher, which means making an impact, was very important to the people. And yet their level of satisfaction with that was, it was like their 5th when it was ranked, their 5th level of satisfaction. And what was about that was that the company wasn't very clear to its employees on how they were making an impact. You know, they were doing their jobs, but how is that making an impact to the world? You know, in this particular case, is they were building the infrastructure to move people from place to place, which is very important, and doing it safely. You know, so, but the company didn't know that that was one of their needs. And that was eye-opening for them. Another one could be in the actual jobs they're doing, is if they are putting in something that was going to impact safety, people's safety, and they're doing it well, they need to know the impact of what they're doing on the environment, on the people who are their clients or whatever. And companies don't do a good job of communicating that because they don't understand how important that is, or didn't understand. Now they're starting to come to that agreement. But it's very, very important that you give employees the messages that they want. One of the other ones that almost every company I've done, people were dissatisfied with, is the level of communication. They don't feel that they were given enough information. And, you know, somebody says, well, it's all on the net. Like we put everything out there. All they have to do is look. But people tend to forget if they're too busy. So what do? How do you solve that? You say, you know what? You can send out a quick message saying, new news on the net, check it out. It's about this. Just reminding them to go there. Because I know for myself, I get so busy and so many things are coming in. You don't have the time to go look. But if you know something is going to affect your job, you will make the time for it.
Right. Or if you even know, I mean, sometimes I've worked with organizations that say, well, we put everything on our SharePoint, but when you go on the SharePoint, it's so disorganized and messy. It's hard for people to find the information that they need. And it's not intentionally disorganized. It's one of the things where they started off by using it and didn't really have a plan of how they were going to use their SharePoint site. And so it just got cumbersome and they just put everything there and there wasn't a real rhyme or reason, or maybe the person who put it there had their own organizational method that no one else understood. But the bottom line is that it was a challenge for people to find the information, so they stopped looking.
Exactly.
And then, then everyone is surprised. Well, how come they don't know this? Well, no one goes on the SharePoint site. It's too difficult.
Exactly.
Or
And
they're not giving the right information to people. That's the one thing I've noticed about motivational maps, is that it also helps you understand how to communicate to each of the different motivators.
yep.
Because the way that someone, for example, who, let's say, has a star recognition is going to be very different in how they want to be communicated to if they're a builder.
Mhm.
It's just a different mode of communication. And so knowing that.
And that is something I see AI doing right now, in the sense that it summarizes the article for you, or you could ask for a summary, which is perfect for the blue zone, okay?
Mhm.
The growth people, because they just want the bottom line. What's important
Yeah.
here?
Yeah.
And then for the achievement people, you have an article that is not, it's got notes and summary, may even have actions. So they've
Mhm.
got everything they need to know about what's happening. And then you can have the longer, more detailed articles for the relationship people.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And really, AI is great at helping with that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's a great example of how you can combine technology with the human element by
Yes.
catering to the human element. So
I mean,
I love
2
that.
or 3 years ago, that would have been very difficult to do.
Yeah.
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 Now it's
Mhm.
not.
Yeah.
So one excuse out of
Off the clock. So
Yeah.
let's turn to the practitioners, because I think a lot of times, we've done this Mapping It Out Wednesday for quite some time now, and people have questions about certification. And so one of the big things that I've gotten some questions on is how hard is it to learn to debrief someone on their motivational map?
It is not difficult if it's taught the way we teach it. Okay. There are places in the world, and I would say most of them, they teach the entire course over 2.5 to 3 days.
Mm.
Now, the way we do it, as you know, is we will teach it in small chunks and explain what's going on, help you you get to do exercises so you're practicing it. And by the time we come to the end, which is, it's what, 90 minutes over 5 weeks. So
Yeah.
you have time to assimilate it. And by the end of it, you should be able to do it. But we don't stop there. We have a practicum where you're actually going out and doing it. But before you do, you and I together, when you were doing this, you and I together, you would debrief me. And then if there's anything that I thought, would make it a little bit more effective, I would say so, because I cannot teach you everything need to know in the classroom. It's just, as real life situations are different, because it's all contextual.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where there's those 10 maps come in, the practicum, because it helps you to get more than just book knowledge. You've got the real life experience.
Yeah.
And that allows you to be able to debrief an individual map.
Mm-hmm.
Now, after we've done that, then we move into teams, because a team is made up of a bunch of individuals. But there's a lot more complexity in there. All of the things that you can do with a team, all of the ways you can use motivational map for recruitment, for performance appraisals, for change management. There's so many things. So it takes a longer period. We do that over 8 weeks, 2 hours per week. And again, what I'd like you to do is, at the end, I give you a scenario, a case study to do, basically, and you go through all of the process on your own with guidance and working with a team that is in the same class with you, so that the first time you go out and speak to a leader, you're not going, oh, I don't know this. You know this, you've got this, and you still got our support.
Yeah, I will say, just to add my 2 cents to this, that it really felt like there was a safety net during the process of debriefing, because you are actually in the practicum stage, you're working with real people. These are real people who have done their maps that you are debriefing, and the ability to feel like there's a safety net that you can go through the maps with Akila and really be able to walk through like how you're going to do it, what are the things you're going to highlight, and have those moments of just a tweak or a clarity, or even asking you a critical question that makes you sort of rethink. I view that as a safety net. So there's a safety net. So there's no falling, because Akila will catch you. And so that was a very positive experience. And some people learn well with a traditional learning style, but the majority of us need that experiential learning. And that's what I enjoyed most, even though it's a longer certification process, it really is an experiential certification process. And I did feel like I walked out really having a good grasp and understanding, and not feeling afraid to do a map with people. So when after you're certified to go out and do the motivational maps, you're no longer feeling nervous about it, because you've done quite a few by the time you actually go out on your own.
And that's just it. It's because different people are attracted to different learning styles.
Mm-hmm.
The people we attract are the people who share that. A lot of them have expert either as one of their top 3 or close to it. They want to really know their stuff before they go out there.
Yeah.
So when we look at who is it that comes to our classes, is they want to make an impact, and they want to know what they're talking about. Those are the top, for most of my people, those are the top 2 motivators, or I should say for many of my people.
Yeah.
And a third one that often gets in there, it's either either a searcher or a spirit, somebody who wants the freedom to do things their way and to help people at the same time.
At the same time, yeah. I love that. So I'm going to end on one final question. We have more questions, so we could do this again another time. We could keep going with the questions, but this one is an interesting question, because I think when people are thinking about becoming certified in any type of assessment or any type of tool or resource, one of the things that needs to be considered is really, how does motivational maps help practitioners grow their business? So really this question is, whenever you're sort of thinking about becoming a practitioner and becoming certified, to think about how is this going to help your business? And so I'd love for you to address that with motivational maps.
Well, for a lot of people, if somebody has been practicing, they get the faster. If they have been in business, and let's say they're a consultant,
Mm-hmm.
motivational maps gives them a really fast start, because now they have something additional to offer their clients, which they have never seen before.
Right.
So it's something new, it's an innovation, it's exciting. And for leaders, because of the numbers that are, it's the hard numbers that are generated, they have something to put their arms around. It's not, oh, motivation is so nebulous. How do we know? Well, they know. And the numbers and the ranking and all of that tells them, hey, there's an issue here. Sometimes it's a very, very quick, sometimes it's a very quick fix. At other times, it may take time. Like in one situation, it was a matter of saying, you know what? Let's just change how the way managers communicate with employees. And the training really helped to fix that.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like if it's a pay problem, that takes time. But when it comes up in maybe not the next assessment or the next survey, but the next one, and you see that that's people's third level of satisfaction, they know you have done something and you know you have done something right. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Well, I am so appreciative that you were willing to take the time to answer some of our questions. And I know that next week people are going to tune in for more information. You look like you want to say something, so
Yes, I
I'll
do.
let you say something before I.
Before we leave, I just wanted to say, with all the graduations going on right now across all of North America and other places in the world, this is an incredibly good time for people who are graduating from colleges and universities to validate what it is that they want. What's their next step? Because that's a question I've heard so often. You graduated and now it's what's next?
Mhm.
So this one can help you to get on the path that you want to go on. And for kids graduating from high school, it's even more important because an education is so expensive today. If they are able to pick the right majors that resonates with what it is that they want, the chances are they will use that degree after they've graduated. Oh.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. To that point, then, definitely sign up for our giveaway of a free motivational map. Maybe there's a graduate in your life that could use a map. And so this is an opportunity to win a one map and a debrief and a coaching session with the amazing Akila Davis. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Akila, for answering these questions. And we will see you next Wednesday, same time, same place for another motivational maps.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, see you then. Bye.